The silver transport pod hissed as it settled on the rich purple soil of Nexoria Prime. Samantha Morgan clutched the small wooden box to her chest and took a deep breath. She was the first human to ever set foot on this planet, and certainly the first to meet with Queen Zylara, ruler of the Nexorian Empire. Her mission seemed simple: deliver a gift from Earth as a gesture of goodwill, but the stakes were impossibly high. The Nexorians possessed technology centuries beyond human understanding, and their alliance could change everything. "This is insane," Samantha whispered to herself, checking her appearance one last time in the reflective surface of the transport pod. Her dark hair was pulled back in a neat bun, her diplomatic uniform pressed and perfect. Just a farm girl from Ohio about to meet an alien queen. The door slid open with a soft hum. Amber light washed over her as two tall guards with iridescent skin approached. Their elongated limbs moved with unsettling grace, and their eyes, three on each face, blinked in alternating patterns. "Human diplomat. We will escort you to Her Majesty," one said through the translator pinned to Samantha's uniform. The voice was melodic yet entirely inhuman. Samantha nodded and stepped forward. The gravity was slightly lighter than Earth's, making each step feel buoyant. The air carried strange scents, something like cinnamon mixed with ozone. The palace was unlike anything human architecture could imagine. Flowing structures that seemed both solid and liquid curved toward a sky filled with 3 moons. The walls pulsed with soft bioluminescence reacting to their presence. Samantha tried to maintain her composure, but her eyes widened at each new wonder. "Your world is beautiful," she said to the guards. "This is merely the entrance hall," the guard replied without turning. "You have seen nothing of Nexoria yet." Samantha followed her escorts through winding corridors, her heart hammering against her ribs. The diplomatic team had spent months selecting the perfect gift. Something uniquely human, something that would impress a queen who had seen wonders across 1,000 worlds. They passed other Nexorians who stopped and stared at her. Some were tall like the guards, others shorter but equally elegant. All had the same iridescent skin that shifted colors with their movements and emotions. Samantha felt like an awkward plain creature among these beings. "How does one address the queen?" Samantha asked, suddenly realizing she hadn't been briefed properly on this detail. "You will speak when spoken to," the guard said. "The queen understands many languages, including your primitive sound patterns." Primitive. The word stung, but Samantha maintained her diplomatic smile. The grand hall opened before them, stretching impossibly high. Curved balconies lined the walls, filled with Nexorians watching her approach. The gathered court of alien dignitaries parted, creating a path to the elevated throne where Queen Zylara waited. The queen was magnificent. Her skin shimmered between deep blue and violet. Her 4 eyes, larger than those of her subjects, tracked Samantha with unnerving precision. The crown upon her head seemed alive, tiny crystals orbiting in complex patterns around a central gem that glowed with inner light. Samantha approached and bowed as she had been instructed. The silence in the hall was absolute. She could hear only her own breathing and the soft hum of the living architecture. "I bring greetings from Earth, Your Majesty, and a humble gift to honor your wisdom and the future friendship between our worlds," Samantha said, proud that her voice remained steady. Queen Zylara leaned forward, her expression unreadable to human eyes. Through a complex series of clicks and whistles, her translator spoke. "Earth, your world is young. Your species younger still. Show me what humans consider valuable." Samantha stepped forward and opened the wooden box. Inside, nestled in soft fabric, was a simple violin. The dark wood gleamed in the amber light. Carefully, she lifted it out. Murmurs rippled through the court. The queen's advisors leaned in, whispering to each other. "This is not a weapon nor technology. It contains no valuable materials. It is an instrument we use to create something we call music," Samantha explained. Confusion rippled through the court. The Nexorians had no concept of music. Their advanced civilization had evolved without it. Their communication was based on color shifts, telepathic impressions, and mathematical patterns. "Explain the purpose of this object," the queen demanded. Samantha raised the violin to her shoulder, positioned the bow, and took a deep breath. "Perhaps it's better if I show you." Before she could begin playing, a commotion erupted at the entrance to the hall. A group of Nexorian soldiers burst in, their skin flashing alarming patterns of red and black. The crowd parted as they approached the throne. The lead soldier prostrated himself before Queen Zylara. "Your Majesty, the Krell ships have been detected entering our system. They come in force." The Queen rose, her calm demeanor unchanged, but her skin darkened significantly. "How many vessels?" "7 warships, Your Majesty. They will reach Nexoria Prime within 6 planetary rotations." Gasps and flashes of color spread through the court. Samantha lowered the violin, unsure what was happening but recognizing the gravity of the moment. Queen Zylara turned her gaze back to Samantha. "It seems your timing is either fortunate or suspicious, human. The Krell are a species that has sought our destruction for millennia. They are ruthless, powerful, and now they approach as we welcome the first human to our world. Your Majesty, Earth has no alliance with any species called the Krell. We only learned of your existence 2 Earth years ago," Samantha said, her mind racing. This diplomatic mission had suddenly become far more complicated. The Queen studied her for a long moment. "We shall see. Your demonstration will wait. For now, you will be escorted to guest quarters. Consider yourself both our guest and our insurance." Samantha bowed again, clutching the violin. "I understand, Your Majesty. But please know that Earth desires only peaceful relations with your people." As the guards led her away, Samantha caught fragments of urgent conversation among the Queen's advisors. Words like defense grid and evacuation protocols translated through her device. The simple gift-giving ceremony had transformed into something far more dangerous. Her quarters, though luxurious by human standards, were clearly designed to contain her. The door sealed with a soft hiss that couldn't disguise the sound of locking mechanisms engaging. The window showed a breathtaking view of the Nexorian capital city, its spiraling towers glowing in the light of the setting sun, but they were completely sealed. Samantha placed the violin carefully on a table that seemed to grow from the floor itself. She sat on the edge of a cushioned platform that served as a bed and tried to make sense of what had happened. The Nexorians were facing some kind of attack or invasion, and now they suspected humans might be involved. "Some ambassador I turned out to be," she muttered to herself. "First contact, and we're already suspected of conspiring with their enemies." She picked up the violin again, finding comfort in its familiar weight and shape. The Earth diplomatic team had selected it as a perfect representation of human creativity and craftsmanship. Now she wondered if she'd ever get the chance to show the Queen what it could do. Outside her window, the 3 moons of Nexoria began their nightly dance across the alien sky. Samantha played a soft melody, letting the music calm her nerves as she contemplated what the morning would bring. Unbeknownst to her, the sound traveled through the living walls of the palace, reaching the sensitive receptors of curious Nexorians who had never experienced anything like it before. In her royal chambers, Queen Zylara listened to the strange vibrations coming through the palace systems. She had lived for 3 centuries, ruled for 2, and yet this simple pattern of sound stirred something unfamiliar within her. As the Krell threat loomed and her military advisors prepared for war, the Queen found herself distracted by the human's curious wooden box and the sounds it produced. Perhaps there was more to these humans than she had initially believed. Samantha woke to a gentle humming that seemed to come from the walls themselves. The room had shifted its color from the deep blues of night to a soft gold that mimicked the sunrise outside her window. She stretched and noticed a tray of food had appeared near her bed, colorful fruits and what looked like bread, though with a purple tint. After a cautious breakfast, she picked up the violin again. Playing had always calmed her nerves, and right now, stranded on an alien world with potential war brewing, her nerves needed all the calming they could get. She was halfway through a sonata when the door slid open. A Nexorian female entered, smaller than the guards but with the same iridescent skin, currently shifting through patterns of blue and green. "I am Lyra, assistant to Her Majesty," she said. Her voice came directly into Samantha's mind, bypassing the translator. "The Queen requests your presence." Samantha carefully placed the violin back in its case. "Has something happened with the Krell ships?" "That is not for me to discuss," Lyra replied. "Please follow." The palace corridors were buzzing with activity. Nexorian officials hurried past, their skin flashing urgent patterns. Military personnel, distinguishable by the metallic bands around their elongated necks, gathered in small groups, discussing tactics in hushed tones. Rather than returning to the grand hall, Lyra led Samantha to a smaller chamber. Maps and holographic displays covered the walls, showing what Samantha assumed was the Nexorian solar system. Red dots moved slowly toward a central planet. Queen Zilara stood at the center of the room, surrounded by advisors. Her skin was a deep royal purple, and the floating crown above her head spun faster than the day before. Human, the Queen acknowledged as Samantha entered. Your device produces vibrations that traveled through our living palace. Many of my people report unusual sensations when exposed to these sound patterns. Samantha bowed. It's called music, Your Majesty. It's an important part of human culture. It is. Distracting, the Queen said. But we have more pressing matters. The Krell approach, and we must determine if your arrival is connected to their movement. I assure you it isn't, Samantha said firmly. Earth has no knowledge of or contact with the Krell. A tall Nexorian male stepped forward, his skin flashing aggressive reds. Convenient timing. The first human arrives, and days later, our oldest enemy approaches after 50 years of peace. General Vex believes you are a distraction, the Queen explained. A ploy to lower our defenses before the attack. Samantha shook her head. That's not true. We've been planning this diplomatic mission for over a year. Our scientists only recently developed the technology to reach your system. Perhaps, the Queen said, but the coincidence remains troubling. Samantha took a deep breath. Your Majesty, I don't know anything about the Krell or your history with them, but if they are threatening Nexoria, then they are a potential threat to Earth as well. Let me help. Let me prove that humans can be allies, not enemies. The room fell silent. The Queen studied her with all four eyes unblinking. How could one human possibly help against the Krell war fleet? General Vex asked, his tone dismissive. I don't know yet, Samantha admitted, but two heads are better than one. Or in this case, two species might find solutions where one cannot. A slight ripple of color passed across the Queen's face, the equivalent of a raised eyebrow. Samantha guessed. Show me your music device again, the Queen commanded suddenly. Confused by the change of topic, Samantha nonetheless opened the violin case and took out the instrument. This wood, it comes from earth plants? The Queen asked. Yes, Your Majesty. This violin is made from maple and spruce trees crafted by human hands. The Queen approached, her tall form towering over Samantha. One seven-fingered hand reached out, hovering over the violin without touching it. Our sensors detect unusual properties in this organic material, properties similar to those found in Krell communication technology. Samantha blinked in surprise. It's just wood, Your Majesty. Treated and shaped, but still just wood from earth trees. Play, the Queen commanded. Play while our scientists analyze the vibrations. Samantha positioned the violin and began to play Bach's Chaconne, a piece filled with complex emotions that had always moved her deeply. The notes filled the war room, bouncing off the hard surfaces and creating a rich, resonant sound. The Nexorian scientists hurried to their instruments, recording and analyzing. The military personnel stood rigid, their skin shifting through patterns of confusion and wonder. The Queen remained perfectly still, all four eyes focused on Samantha's fingers as they danced across the strings. When the piece ended, the room remained silent for several long moments. One of the scientists approached the Queen, speaking in their native language, a series of clicks and color shifts that Samantha's translator couldn't process. The Queen responded, her own skin rippling with complex patterns. Finally, she turned back to Samantha. The vibration patterns your device produces, they create disruptions in our sensory systems, not unpleasant, but unprecedented. More importantly, they bear similarities to the frequency patterns used to disrupt Krell navigation systems during the last war. Samantha's eyes widened. You're saying music might be a weapon against the Krell? Not a weapon, the Queen corrected. A tool, perhaps. The Krell rely on precise harmonic frequencies for their ship-to-ship communications. Your music creates patterns that could potentially interfere with those frequencies. General Vex stepped forward. This is absurd, Your Majesty. We cannot base our defense strategy on primitive vibrations produced by stretched animal hair on wood. Yet our ancestors used similar frequency disruptions to end the last Krell war, the Queen reminded him. We have since lost those technologies in the Great Data Purge. She turned back to Samantha. You will work with our scientists. Show them everything about this music, every pattern, every variation. We must determine if there is a practical application before the Krell arrive. Samantha nodded. a mixture of relief and anxiety washing over her. "I'll do everything I can, Your Majesty. But I'm not a musician by training. I'm a diplomat who happens to play the violin. There are far better musicians on Earth." "You are the musician we have," the Queen stated simply, "and if your primitive art form can help us, perhaps humans and Nexorians have more in common than I first believed." The next 3 days were a blur of activity. Samantha worked tirelessly with Nexorian scientists, playing every piece she knew while they recorded and analyzed the sound patterns. They brought in other instruments from their own culture, strange, crystalline structures that produced tones when touched, and combined them with her violin playing. The Nexorians had no concept of music as art, but they quickly grasped its mathematical properties. They broke down Bach and Mozart into frequency patterns and algorithms, searching for combinations that might disrupt Krell communications. During a brief rest period, Lyra brought Samantha a drink that tasted like mint and honey. "You should know," Lyra said, her skin shifting to a gentle blue. "The Queen has been listening to recordings of your playing during her private meditation periods." Samantha looked up in surprise. "Really? Why?" "She finds the patterns when stimulating. Many of us do. It creates sensations we have no words for." Lyra's skin rippled with small spots of gold. Embarrassment, perhaps. Some are calling it a new sense awakened by human vibrations. "We call that emotional response," Samantha explained. "Music makes humans feel things: happiness, sadness, excitement, calm. It's why we create it." "Fascinating," Lyra said. "To create something purely to stimulate emotional responses. It seems so impractical," Samantha suggested with a small smile. "Beautiful," Lyra corrected. "It is beautiful." On the 4th day, as the Krell ships entered the outer reaches of the Nexorian system, a breakthrough came. The scientists had created a device that could amplify and modify Samantha's violin playing, broadcasting it on frequencies that the Krell ships would receive. Queen Zylara summoned Samantha to the command center, a vast dome at the top of the palace with a clear view of the sky above. "The Krell will be in range within hours," the Queen explained. "Our scientists believe your music, properly modified and broadcast, may disrupt their navigation and communication systems long enough for our defense grid to target their vessels." "What if it doesn't work?" Samantha asked. The Queen's skin darkened slightly. "Then we fight as we have always fought. But now we have something they will not expect." As the hours passed and the red dots on the holographic display grew closer, Samantha felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. She was no longer just a diplomat. Somehow she had become a key part of the Nexorian defense strategy. "Your Majesty," she said as they waited, "if this works, if music helps save Nexoria, I hope it will be the beginning of a real alliance between our worlds." The Queen turned her 4 eyes toward Samantha. "When I first saw your wooden box, I thought you had brought a child's toy as a gift to a queen. Now I understand that you brought something far more valuable, something my species has never known. Whether we survive today or not, you have given us music. That gift will never be forgotten." The first notes of Vivaldi's Summer filled the command center, fierce and stormy. The Nexorian scientists had determined that rapid, intense musical patterns created the most effective disruption to Krell communication systems. Samantha's fingers flew across the strings as the broadcast system amplified her playing, sending the music out into space toward the approaching enemy fleet. On the giant display screens, 7 red dots represented the Krell warships. They moved in perfect formation, their trajectory a straight line toward Nexoria Prime. General Vex stood with his officers, watching the screens intently, his skin flickering between determined blue and anxious yellow. "Any effect?" Queen Zylara asked after Samantha had been playing for nearly 10 minutes. One of the scientists responded, "Detecting minor fluctuations in their formation, Your Majesty. The lead ship is showing signs of navigation inconsistency." Samantha increased the tempo, the notes becoming more frantic and chaotic. Sweat beaded on her forehead as she pushed herself to play with more intensity than ever before. The Nexorian scientists adjusted their equipment, focusing the broadcast directly at the lead Krell vessel. Suddenly, the red dot representing that ship veered slightly off course. "It's working," exclaimed one of the officers, her skin flashing bright patterns of surprise. But the success was short-lived. The Krell ship quickly corrected its course, and the others continued their steady approach. "They're adapting," General Vex stated, "adjusting their communication frequencies to compensate." Samantha paused her playing. Then we need to change the music. Something completely different. She shifted into a slow, mournful adagio, the complete opposite of the frantic Vivaldi. The notes were long, sustained, and heavy with emotion. The contrast seemed to confuse the Krell systems again, causing momentary disruptions in their formation. For the next 2 hours, Samantha played continuously, shifting between musical styles whenever the Krell seemed to adapt. Classical gave way to folk tunes, which transformed into improvised melodies. Each change bought the Nexorians a little more time, forcing the Krell fleet to slow its approach as they constantly readjusted their systems. "Your Majesty," General Vex reported, "the delay is giving our defense grid time to fully charge. We're at 82% capacity now." "And the evacuation?" the Queen asked. "Proceeding as planned. The southern continent is already clear." Samantha's arms ached and her fingers were growing numb, but she continued playing. A Nexorian medical officer approached, applying a soothing gel to her fingertips that immediately reduced the pain and allowed her to continue. "The lead Krell ship is hailing us," announced the communications officer. "Queen," Zilara straightened her tall form. "Put them through, but maintain the music disruption." A harsh, guttural voice filled the command center. The translator struggled to convert the strange language, producing a metallic, disjointed speech. "Nexorian vermin. Your pathetic interference will not save you. Our weapons are locked on your major cities. Surrender your world or face extinction." The Queen's skin darkened to a deep purple. "Krell Commander, this is Queen Zilara. Your unprovoked aggression violates the Treaty of Galactic Concordance. Withdraw your fleet, or we will defend ourselves with all available means." A sound that might have been laughter came through the communication system. "Treaties mean nothing. We have waited 50 years rebuilding our strength. Today Nexoria falls. Today we reclaim what should have been ours." The transmission cut off abruptly. The displays showed the Krell ships accelerating despite the musical disruption. "They're launching attack vessels," reported a tactical officer. "Smaller craft likely heading for the capital." Queen Zilara turned to General Vex. "Initiate Defense Protocol Epsilon. Protect the civilian population at all costs." To Samantha, she said, "Your music has bought us precious time, but now we must fight. You should seek shelter." Samantha lowered her violin but didn't leave her post. "Your Majesty, if music can disrupt their communications, maybe it can do more." The Nexorian scientists said that certain frequencies resonated with Krell technology. "What if we find the exact frequency that doesn't just disrupt but damages their systems?" The Queen considered this for a moment.
"How would you find such a frequency?"
"Trial and error, but faster. I need to see their response data in real time." Samantha turned to the scientists. "Can you show me how their ships react to different notes? Individual notes, not just musical pieces." The lead scientist, Ilara, nodded and quickly set up a display that showed wavelength responses from the Krell fleet. Samantha began playing single notes, holding each one for several seconds while watching the data. When she played a high E string, the display showed a significant spike in energy fluctuations from the Krell vessels. "There," Ilara pointed. "That particular frequency creates a harmonic resonance with their shield generators. If we amplify that note enough," Samantha began, "we might overload their shields." Ilara finished. General Vex approached, his skepticism evident in his flickering skin. "A single musical note cannot destroy a warship." "Not destroy," Samantha corrected, "but potentially disable. Their shields appear to vibrate at a frequency that resonates with this E-note. If we hit them with enough power at exactly that frequency, it could create a feedback loop." Queen Zilara didn't hesitate. "Do it. Reconfigure our broadcast array to focus maximum power on that single frequency." The Nexorian engineers worked quickly, reprogramming the broadcast system while Samantha fine-tuned the exact pitch. The approaching Krell fighters were now visible in the sky above the capital. Sleek, black vessels that moved with unnatural speed. "Ready?" Ilara announced. Samantha positioned her bow and looked to the Queen, who nodded. The single note rang out, amplified to extraordinary levels by the Nexorian technology. On the displays, the energy readings from the Krell ships began to fluctuate wildly. "Their shield harmonics are destabilizing," reported a tactical officer. "The lead ship's defensive systems are fluctuating by 40%. 60%? 78%. General Vex leaned forward, his skin now pulsing with excited blues. "Our defense grid is at full power. Targeting the lead vessel now." The Queen raised a hand. Fire. Brilliant beams of energy launched from points around the Nexorian capital, converging on the lead Krell warship. With its shields compromised by the resonating frequency, the vessel's defenses failed. The beams cut through the ship's hull, creating a series of explosions that rippled from bow to stern. The command center erupted in flashes of color as the Nexorians celebrated the first victory. The lead Krell warship drifted dead in space, but the remaining 6 continued their approach. Again, ordered the Queen. Target the next vessel. Samantha maintained the perfect E note while the defense grid recharged. The Krell, now aware of their vulnerability, began evasive maneuvers, but the Nexorian targeting systems, guided by the Queen herself, tracked them relentlessly. One by one, the massive Krell warships found their shields compromised by the simple violin note and their hulls breached by Nexorian energy weapons. The smaller attack craft, seeing their motherships disabled, began to retreat. After the 6th Krell warship was neutralized, the 7th turned away from Nexoria Prime, accelerating rapidly toward the edge of the system. Should we pursue? Asked General Vex. Queen Zilara shook her head. Let one return to tell what happened here. Let them know that Nexoria is protected by new allies and new powers they cannot comprehend. The command center fell silent as the final Krell ship disappeared from their sensors. Samantha lowered her violin, her arms shaking with exhaustion. The Nexorians stood in stunned disbelief. A war they had prepared decades for ended in hours with minimal casualties. The humans' music saved us, whispered one of the officers, her skin glowing with patterns of awe. Queen Zilara approached Samantha, towering over her but somehow no longer intimidating. You came to our world bearing a simple gift, and with that gift you have saved millions of lives. Samantha smiled weakly. I came hoping to build a bridge between our worlds. I never imagined it would be built with music. Not just music, the Queen corrected. Courage, creativity, and cooperation. Qualities our peoples share, it seems. In the days that followed, the Nexorian capital celebrated. The disabled Krell warships were towed into stable orbits around Nexoria Prime, studied by scientists eager to understand their technology better. Recovery teams found the Krell crews in disarray, their highly sensitive hearing devastated by the sustained resonance frequency that had overloaded their ship's systems. Samantha was given quarters in the royal wing of the palace and treated as an honored guest. Nexorians of all ranks sought audiences with her, eager to learn more about human music and culture. One evening, as she sat playing quietly in her quarters, Queen Zilara arrived unannounced. Her floating crown was absent, and her skin glowed with the soft blues of informal settings. I hope I'm not disturbing you, the Queen said, her voice coming directly into Samantha's mind without the translator. Samantha quickly stood and bowed. Not at all, Your Majesty. I'm honored. The Queen gestured for her to sit again. I have come with a request. The High Council has agreed to formalize an alliance with Earth. We wish to send representatives to your world, to learn more about your people and your music. 6 months passed on Nexoria Prime. The capital city had fully recovered from the brief Krell attack, and life had settled into a new normal. For Samantha Morgan, that new normal included daily lessons with Queen Zilara, teaching her to play the violin. The Nexorian craftspeople, fascinated by the Earth instrument, had created a modified version for their queen. It was larger, with spacing accommodating 7 fingers and made from local materials that shimmered with faint bioluminescence. The sound it produced was hauntingly beautiful, similar to an Earth violin but with undertones that seemed to vibrate at a deeper level. Your progress is remarkable. Your Majesty, Samantha said as the Queen completed a simple melody. Queen Zilara lowered the instrument, her skin glowing with pleasure patterns. It brings me satisfaction, is that the right word? This feeling of creating organized vibrations? Joy might be closer, Samantha suggested. Or fulfillment. Joy, the Queen repeated, testing the word. Yes, this creates joy. The door slid open and Lyra entered. Her skin pulsed with urgent patterns. Your Majesty, the Earth delegation has arrived in orbit. Their transport will reach the surface within the hour. Queen Zilara carefully placed her violin in its case, a ritual she had observed and adopted from Samantha. Thank you, Lyra. We will greet them in the Grand Hall. Samantha felt a surge of excitement and nervousness. After months as the only human on Nexoria, she would finally see familiar faces. The diplomatic team was bringing scientists, musicians, and cultural experts to formalize the alliance between Earth and the Nexorian Empire. "Are you pleased to see your kind again?" the Queen asked, noticing the color rising in Samantha's cheeks. "Yes, Your Majesty. Though Nexoria has become like a second home to me." The Queen's skin rippled with what Samantha had learned to recognize as amusement. "You have adapted well for a species that evolved on a world so different from ours. Your flexibility is impressive." In the Grand Hall, Samantha stood beside the Queen's throne, now an official advisor to the Nexorian court. The hall was filled with dignitaries, scientists, and artists, a stark contrast to her first arrival when military personnel had dominated the gathering. The Earth delegation entered, a group of 20 humans walking with careful steps in the lighter gravity. Samantha recognized the Secretary General of the United Nations, along with several renowned musicians, including her former violin teacher. Formal introductions were made, gifts were exchanged, and speeches delivered. The Secretary General presented Queen Zalara with a crystal music box that played Mozart, a gift that would have seemed trivial months ago but now held profound significance. The Queen, in turn, gifted Earth with schematics for solar energy technology that would revolutionize power generation. During the reception that followed, Samantha found a moment alone with her old violin teacher, Dr. Eleanor Wright. "When they told me you saved an alien civilization with Bach, I thought they were joking," Dr. Wright said, embracing her former student. "Now I see they weren't exaggerating. You've accomplished something extraordinary, Samantha." "It was luck, really," Samantha replied modestly. "Being in the right place at the right time with the right instrument." Dr. Wright shook her head. "Don't diminish what you've done. You've opened a door between species using the universal language of music. That's not luck. That's brilliance." Across the hall, Queen Zalara was deep in conversation with Earth scientists, her skin displaying the intense focus patterns Samantha had come to recognize. Occasionally, the Queen would glance in her direction as if checking that she was still there. "The Queen seems quite attached to you," Dr. Wright observed. "We've developed a friendship, I suppose," Samantha said. "She's fascinated by music. She practices for hours every day like a dedicated student. And what about you? Are you coming home with us or staying on as Earth's ambassador?" The question caught Samantha off guard. She hadn't thought about leaving Nexoria. Her mission had evolved from a simple diplomatic exchange to something far more significant. She had become a bridge between worlds. "I don't know," she admitted. "I need to think about it." That evening, as the Earth delegation settled into their quarters, Samantha was summoned to the Queen's private garden, a rare honor. The garden was unlike any on Earth. Plants that responded to thought, flowers that changed color based on emotions surrounding them, trees that seemed to sing in the gentle breeze. Queen Zalara stood by a pool of luminescent water, her skin glowing softly in the moonlight. Without her crown and formal attire, she seemed more approachable, almost vulnerable. "Your people are not what I expected," the Queen said as Samantha joined her. "In what way, Your Majesty?" "They are diverse. Different colors, sizes, mannerisms. Yet they function as one species. It is intriguing," Samantha smiled. "Diversity is one of humanity's strengths. Different perspectives lead to innovation." The Queen was quiet for a moment, watching the ripples in the pool. "Your Secretary General asked if you would return to Earth as our ambassador. She believes you would serve both our worlds best in that capacity." "I see." Samantha felt a complicated mix of emotions. "What do you think, Your Majesty?" "I think—" The Queen paused, her skin shifting through patterns Samantha couldn't quite interpret. "I think you have become important to Nexoria, to the court, to music education among our people. To me." The admission surprised Samantha. The Queen rarely expressed personal preferences. "Your world needs you," Queen Zalara continued, "but so does mine. The decision must be yours." Before Samantha could respond, an urgent alert sounded. The Queen's skin immediately shifted to alarm patterns, and a communication sphere appeared beside her. "Your Majesty," General Vex's voice came through. "We've detected unusual energy signatures at the edge of our system. Not Krell, but something else. Something powerful. I will come to the command center," the Queen replied. She turned to Samantha. "Will you join me?" In the command center, the displays showed a massive object approaching Nexoria, far larger than any Krell warship. Its shape was difficult to discern, seeming to shift and change as they watched. "What is it?" Samantha asked. Unknown, replied Alara, now Chief Science Officer. It's not matching any species in our database. The energy readings are extraordinary. General Vex, his skin pulsing with concern, reported, It's not responding to communication attempts. Its trajectory will bring it to Nexoria Prime in approximately 12 hours. Alert the Earth delegation, the Queen ordered. If this is a threat, they should be informed. As the hours passed, more data came in. The object continued its approach, maintaining a steady speed. Detailed scans revealed it to be a massive living organism, a space-dwelling creature of immense proportions. The Earth scientists joined the Nexorian team, combining their knowledge to analyze the being. By morning, they had reached a tentative conclusion. We believe it's what we might call a space whale, explained Dr. Keller, an Earth xenobiologist, a sentient creature that evolved to live in the vacuum of space, using energy fields instead of air. It's not a ship, it's alive, but why is it coming here? Asked General Vex. Samantha, who had been quiet during the analysis, suddenly had a realization. The music. When we broadcasted the violin playing to disrupt the Krell ships, we sent those sound waves into space. What if this creature heard them? Ilara's skin flashed with excitement. That's possible. Our broadcast used extremely powerful amplification. The frequencies could have traveled far beyond our system. So it's coming to the source of the music? Queen Zalara asked. It might be, Samantha said. On Earth, whales use sound to communicate across vast distances. If this space whale is similar, it might be drawn to what it perceives as communication. The Queen considered this theory. If it is responding to music, perhaps we can communicate with it the same way. Samantha nodded. We could try broadcasting more music, not just violin, but a variety of Earth instruments. The Earth delegation brought musicians and recordings, and Nexorian instruments as well, added the Queen. Perhaps a combination would be most effective. As the space whale drew closer, a plan formed. The Nexorians modified their broadcast array, creating what amounted to a massive interstellar concert hall. Earth musicians set up alongside Nexorian sound artists, preparing to perform together for the first time, and for a very unique audience. Samantha and Queen Zalara would lead the ensemble, human and Nexorian, playing side by side. The performance would begin when the space whale entered orbit around Nexoria Prime. What if it's hostile? General Vex questioned, ever the pragmatist. Then we will face that challenge together, the Queen replied. But I believe Samantha is right. It comes seeking connection, not conquest. As the massive creature approached the planet, its true beauty became apparent. Its skin, if it could be called that, shimmered with colors that made even Nexorian patterns seem dull by comparison. Energy fields pulsed around it like an aurora, and what appeared to be massive fins or wings extended for miles. It settled into orbit, maintaining a distance that suggested caution rather than aggression. The command center fell silent as everyone watched the displays in awe. It's time, Queen Zylara said quietly. 1 year after the arrival of the space whale, now affectionately named Symphony by the humans, Nexoria Prime had transformed. The capital city sported a new district where humans and Nexorians lived and worked side by side. Earth architecture blended with Nexorian organic buildings, creating structures unlike anything seen on either world. At the center of this district stood the Interspecies Cultural Center, an enormous dome where musicians, artists, and scientists from both planets collaborated. Today, it would host its most ambitious event yet, a concert connecting 3 species across the vastness of space. Samantha Morgan, now officially Earth's ambassador to Nexoria, stood on the stage beside Queen Zylara. Both held their violins, surrounded by an orchestra of human and Nexorian musicians. Above them, a massive transparent ceiling revealed Symphony floating in low orbit, its massive form shimmering against the backdrop of stars. Are you nervous? Samantha asked the Queen. Queen Zylara's skin rippled with amusement. After facing the Krell fleet and communing with a space-dwelling Leviathan, a mere concert for 300 dignitaries hardly registers as concerning. Samantha laughed. Over the past year, the Queen had not only mastered the violin, but had also developed a distinctly dry sense of humor. Their weekly lessons had evolved into genuine friendship, perhaps the first true friendship between a human and a Nexorian. The audience filed in, Earth diplomats in formal attire, Nexorian officials with ceremonial skin patterns, and a small delegation of Krell observers, The peace negotiations with the Krell had been another unexpected outcome of the space whale's arrival. Symphony's vast knowledge of galactic history had revealed the true origin of the Krell-Nexorian conflict, a misunderstanding that had escalated into generations of war. As the lights dimmed, Ilara activated the specialized communication array that would transmit the concert to Symphony while simultaneously translating the space whale's song into audible frequencies for the audience. "Distinguished guests," Samantha began. "Today marks 1 year since our 3 species began a conversation through music, a universal language that transcends our differences. What started with a simple violin has grown into an interstellar symphony." Queen Ilara continued. "Today we perform cosmic convergence, the first composition created collaboratively by humans, Nexorians, and Symphony. May it symbolize the harmony we continue to build among our worlds." The concert began with Samantha and the Queen playing a duet, the same melody they had first used to communicate with Symphony. Gradually, other instruments joined in, earth cellos and flutes, Nexorian crystal harps and resonance chambers, creating layers of sound that filled the dome. From orbit, Symphony's response came, deep resonant tones that vibrated through the specially designed acoustic system. The space whale's song interwove with the orchestra, creating harmonies impossible before their 3 species met. In the audience, Samantha spotted General Vex sitting beside the Earth Secretary General, both swaying slightly to the music. The general's skin displayed patterns of contentment, a far cry from the suspicious military commander she had first met. Beside them sat Dr. Wright, who had remained on Nexoria to establish a music academy for Nexorian students. As the piece reached its climax, Symphony performed a spectacular maneuver, creating ripples of light that danced across its massive body in synchronization with the music. The audience gasped in wonder at the display. When the final notes faded, there was a moment of perfect silence before thunderous applause erupted from the human contingent, accompanied by luminescent skin displays from the Nexorians. Even the Krell delegates tapped their ceremonial staffs in appreciation, their species equivalent of applause. After the concert, Samantha and the Queen retreated to the royal garden for a moment of quiet reflection. The garden had been expanded to include earth plants, which had adapted surprisingly well to Nexoria's soil and light. "I received a message from Earth today," Samantha said, watching a butterfly-like Nexorian insect land on a rose. "They want to establish a permanent human colony here. Not just diplomats and scientists, but families. They're calling it New Harmony." The Queen's skin displayed thoughtful patterns. "Your people wish to make Nexoria their home? Some do. Just as some Nexorians have requested permission to settle on Earth." Samantha turned to face the Queen. "What do you think? Is our alliance ready for such a step?" Queen Ilara was silent for a moment, gazing at the 3 moons rising on the horizon. "A year ago I would have rejected the idea immediately. Now, I find myself intrigued by the possibility. Our species are different in many ways, but we have learned so much from each other." "We have," Samantha agreed. "The medical exchange alone has revolutionized treatments on both worlds, and the art that's being created through collaboration is unlike anything either species produced alone." "There is something I have not told you," the Queen said suddenly. "Something Symphony shared with me privately during our last communication session." Samantha raised an eyebrow. "Oh?" "Symphony has encountered 17 advanced species in its lifetime. Most exist in isolation, fearful of others, protective of their knowledge. Some, like the Krell and Nexorians, found each other only to engage in conflict." The Queen's skin shifted to deep, contemplative blues. "But rarely, very rarely, species find each other and create something greater than the sum of their parts. Symphony believes we may be such a pairing, just because we both happen to enjoy music?" Samantha asked. The Queen shook her head. "No, because when faced with misunderstanding, we chose curiosity over fear. When confronted with difference, we sought common ground. These qualities are rare in the galaxy, according to Symphony." A notification chimed softly. The Earth delegation was requesting Samantha's presence for a planning meeting about the proposed colony. "You should go," the Queen said. "They need their ambassador." Samantha nodded but hesitated. "Before I do, there's something I've been meaning to ask you. Something personal." The Queen's skin rippled with curiosity. "Yes?" "In human culture, when someone teaches you something important, something that changes your life, it's customary to acknowledge them as your mentor. I was wondering if, despite your royal status, you would consider me your violin mentor officially. Queen Xylara's skin lit up with joy patterns. I would be honored, Samantha Morgan. In Nexorian culture, such a relationship is sacred. It means our life paths are forever intertwined. I like the sound of that, Samantha said, smiling. Forever intertwined. As she left the garden, Samantha looked up at the night sky where Symphony floated, a shimmering presence watching over both species. From a simple wooden box containing a violin to interspecies harmony and the possibility of shared worlds. The journey had been extraordinary. The next morning, Samantha woke early to find Lyra waiting outside her quarters, her skin pulsing with excitement. The Queen requests your presence in the observatory immediately, Lyra said. Symphony has detected something approaching our system. Samantha quickly dressed and followed Lyra through the palace corridors. In the observatory, Queen Xylara stood with General Vex and Alara, all staring at the main display with expressions of wonder. What is it? Samantha asked as she joined them. Symphony calls them the chorus. The Queen replied, her voice hushed with awe. They're more of Symphony's kind, space whales drawn by our music. The display showed 5 massive entities approaching Nexoria, each as large as Symphony but with unique patterns of light playing across their bodies. Is it safe? General Vex asked, his military instincts still active despite the past year of peace. Alara nodded. Symphony says they come in friendship. They heard our music, not just the concert but all the broadcasts we've been sending. They're curious about species that communicate through organized sound. So our music has reached beyond our system, Samantha marveled. It's becoming a beacon. Queen Zalara turned to her, all 4 eyes bright with excitement. Symphony says there's more. The chorus travels between star systems, connecting with various intelligent species. They wish to take representatives of both our kinds with them on their next journey, to meet other civilizations, to share our music and our unique alliance. Space exploration through music diplomacy, Samantha said, stunned by the offer. That's incredible. Indeed, the Queen agreed. And Symphony specifically requested that you and I be the representatives. Us? Why? The Queen's skin displayed patterns of pride and affection. Because we were the first to bridge our species through music. Because we represent the harmony that can exist between different worlds. And because Symphony says we play well together, Samantha laughed. That we do, Your Majesty. That we do. Outside the observatory window, the first light of Nexoria's sun touched the spires of the capital city. Human buildings stood alongside Nexorian structures, different but complementary, like notes in a chord. In the harbor, Earth ships docked beside Nexorian vessels. In the university districts, students of both species studied together, learning from each other's knowledge and perspectives. So, Queen Xylara asked, shall we accept Symphony's invitation? Shall we become ambassadors not just between our worlds but to the galaxy? Samantha looked at the Queen, her teacher, her student, her friend, and smiled. I can't think of a better duet partner for an interstellar tour.